When the world struggled with the financial crisis in 2008, something incredible happened in India. Tata Motors, a celebrated car company, came out with its newest car, Tata Nano, the first ever car priced under 1 lakh rupees or about $2,000 at the time. This was huge because this price tag was just about 2 times India's per capita income, which happened to be $1,050 at the time. Keep in mind, this was a time when the average price of a hatchback was 3 lakh rupees or $6,000. Nearly 6 times our GDP per capita. So naturally, the Tata Nano was a big deal because buying a car in India is considered as a huge part of moving up the social ladder. It is a big deal for the people here. And Tata Motors saw this as an opportunity to democratize this experience for Indians across the country. But what happened next with the Nano will shock you. Over 10 long years, it sold less than 270,000 units. Now contrast this to the Mahindra Scorpio that came out in 2002 with a price tag of 5.5 lakh rupees or about $11,500 at the time. At the time, India's GDP per capita was just about $500, half of what it was when the Nano came out. But despite that, the Scorpio became a hit. It sold more than 1 million units till date and it continues to remain a best-selling product for the manufacturing company Mahindra. So there's this weird scenario. In an extremely poor country, affordable products like the Nano fail, but extremely pricey, unaffordable ones like the Scorpio do incredibly well. For some reason, Indians keep buying the cars they cannot afford. And here's the even more messed up part. The government deliberately ensures that cars remain unaffordable and inaccessible to the general population. As a result, cars are more expensive in India than anywhere else in the world, despite the country having extremely low income. For context, India's rank in terms of GDP per capita is 143 out of 194. Today we'll uncover why it's like this, as always with the help of evidence and data. To understand how we got here, it helps to see why the Nano failed. You see, the working class in India either uses public transport, which is crumbling, or two-wheelers, which are extremely uncomfortable in India's heat in order to get around. Because let's face it, that's what they can afford. As a result, buying a car is a huge upgrade in India in terms of lifestyle. It is a matter of social standing. Everybody wants a car as soon as possible in order to escape their existing discomforts. So on the outside, the Nano sounds genius, doesn't it? After all, affordable products work better in price-sensitive markets like India. Cheaper soft drinks, phones, or even bikes sell more than their expensive alternatives in India. And when it comes to buying a car, a dream that everyone wants to desperately fulfill, the Nano had to be a hit, right? It was within most people's reach. That's exactly why it failed. It was within most people's reach. In India, status is everything. Indians are absolute snobs when it comes to owning expensive things, even if it makes no financial sense. As a result, because the Nano was marketed as the first car at just 1 lakh rupees, it immediately became victim to these status games. It started being looked at as the poor man's car. Indians would literally go out and buy mid-range to high-end bikes which were more expensive than the Nano in order to not be the person who drives the cheapest car in the country. In fact, in 2009, the Maruti Suzuki Alto was the best-selling car in India and it was priced 2.4 times the Tata Nano and it sold 240,000 units in just 1 year. Almost as much as what the Nano sold over 10 years. Keep in mind, the Nano wasn't even in the top 10. All of this happened in supposedly the most price-sensitive market of the world. Now I'm sure you're wondering, back in 2009 when our GDP per capita was about $1,000, how the hell did we afford cars which were about 5 to 6 times of this? Where was the money coming from? It's very simple. A status-driven society can act in very funny ways if the ecosystem favors it. To give you an example of the ecosystem, let me share a personal story. 3 years ago, when I bought my iPhone 14 Pro Max, a middle-aged man was buying the same phone alongside me. He asked me why I'm buying a phone case with it. I was very confused and I said, obviously for protection. Why else does anyone buy a phone case? To which he said, just buy Apple Care instead. That way you wouldn't worry about dropping it. Now Apple Care at the time for my phone was 21,000 rupees, nearly 2,100 times a simple 100 rupee phone case. I told him it makes no financial sense for me because I could simply buy a heavy duty phone cover and be a little extra careful with my phone. He should consider doing the same thing. But what he said next would shock you. He said, but then how will everyone else know that I have the latest and greatest device if I put a fat cover on it? The phone along with Apple Care for 3 years is just 7,500 rupees a month, which has to be paid over the next 2 years. This man had financed the warranty of his phone at 14% per annum for 2 years, only to show other people that he has the latest device. Let that sink in. That's the ecosystem. Easy financing worked as a drug and put Indians against their own finances for the past 3 decades. On one hand, Indians' savings are plummeting and they're borrowing money for every single expense. And on the other hand, they're buying huge, extremely expensive cars like it's nobody's business. Let me share data for both these claims. In the financial year 2024, India's passenger vehicle sales hit an all-time high and grew by 8.74%. The average ticket size for a four-wheeler that can carry 4 people in India is about 4.5 lakh rupees or $50 to $100. However, the most expensive category of passenger vehicles, sport utility vehicles, grew 3 times faster at 28%. The average ticket size here is 10 lakh rupees or $12,000. But despite that, it was the highest selling category of passenger vehicles with a whopping 41% market share. In fact, during this year, hatchbacks and sedans declined by 12%. Now, some smartass might say, isn't that a good thing? We are buying bigger cars because we need more space for our bigger families. Plus, we are the 4th largest economy now. We have more income, so we are buying more expensive cars. Let me share some data that will prove both these claims are bullshit. This trend where Indians are buying larger, more expensive cars isn't because our families are growing in size or our incomes and savings are rising. In fact, Indian families shrunk over the past couple of years. Nuclear families of 4 people or less were just 37% back in 2008 but rose to 50% in 2022. In 1999, India's household debt as a percentage of GDP hit an all-time low of just 2.2%. But this number grew to a whopping 17.4% in 2024. In fact, in just the last 5 years, it grew 40%. And this was just core household debt. If you look at all household liabilities as a percentage of GDP, this number was scarier at 41%. Obviously, the same pattern was seen even in the case of auto financing. Vehicle loan growth in India averaged at 11.49% over the past 5 years, almost double the GDP growth rate. In fact, 3 out of 4 cars in India are bought with a car loan. Not only are the brand new latest cars unaffordable, 1 in 4 used cars were also financed with a loan. And why wouldn't they be? Loans can be structured anyhow to make any product look affordable. Now I'll systematically break down how banks are in the business of lying to you. But before I do that, if you learned something new up until this point, consider subscribing to the channel. It's free, but it keeps us incredibly motivated. Let's say you're buying the base model of an SUV which requires a loan of 10 lakh rupees. This loan is being financed at 9% per annum for the next 5 years. Your monthly payment is 21,000 rupees and at the end of 5 years, you would have repaid a total of 12.4 lakh rupees with interest. However, the top model, the latest and greatest, requires a loan of 15 lakh rupees, nearly 50% more than your existing budget. But the salesman tells you it is well within your budget. It's affordable. You can buy it right now. How? He simply structures a 15 lakh rupee loan at 9% per annum for 7 years instead of 5, and that brings your monthly payment to just 24,000 rupees, a measly 3,000 rupees more than the first scenario. Because the loan amount is 50% higher, at the end of 7 years, you would have paid a total of 21 lakh rupees or 100% more than what you would in the case of the base model. But the sales associate doesn't tell you this. He only focuses on the monthly payment and ends up closing the deal. Most Indians end up falling for this tactic, and the ones that know the entire picture still buy the top variant for one reason alone: the need to play status games. And frankly, I have nothing against the people who are buying these cars. After all, we're all trying to earn money and live a better life. So naturally, we should be doing the things that make us happy as long as it's not financially stupid. And it could have been a lot more sustainable and not financially stupid had it not been for the biggest profiteer of the automobile sector: the Indian government. The government has systematically ensured that cars remain unaffordable and inaccessible to the general population despite despite being faced with a crumbling public transport infrastructure. They know that people love to play status games and buy expensive cars, so in typical government fashion, they step in and make the crisis even worse. Look at the Scorpio from our previous example. The base model of this car in 2025 costs 9.08 lakh rupees. The government charges a 28% goods and services tax on this car along with a 22% compensation cess. This brings your total cost to 13.62 lakhs. Then you pay an additional 2.5 lakh rupees in road tax, registration and fast tags, bringing the final cost to 16.57 lakhs, nearly 45% of which is paid out in taxes for roads and trains that look like this. And you know, taxation is a joke in India because even smaller hatchbacks and two-wheelers that the working class uses are classified as luxuries and the government charges 28% of GST there. This is the highest tier of taxes where luxury and sin items like tobacco, alcohol and gambling are classified. Realistically, tell me, how is a 50,000 rupee scooter for the working class a luxury? That too when it has to be driven on roads like these. Look at the same car in 3 countries. The Toyota Fortuner would require you to pay 12.7% in taxes in Japan, 7.6% in the US and nearly 40% in India. Indians would have actually been able to afford the cars that they want and dream of had it not been for the exploitative taxation, because that would have brought the prices down by nearly half. So we have a double whammy. On one hand, Indians are playing status games instead of doing the financially sensible thing. They are buying things they cannot afford in order to impress people they don't even know. And on the other hand, we have the government milking the shit out of their stupidity. For the government, cars are a cash cow, regardless of the impact this entire taxation and behavior has on the people's finances. We could solve these problems by implementing 2 potential solutions. First is to kill all these levels of taxation and make the cars actually affordable to the people, because we aren't as rich as we think. Inputs, manufacturing costs, people's tastes and preferences aren't in our control, but taxation is, and that could easily be tweaked to make getting around more affordable. And the second is to actually include financial literacy at the school level, because we are currently seeing a loan frenzy and people do not understand the financial products that they are signing up for. It's incredibly scary how so many people have no idea that financial products can be structured anyhow to make anything look affordable. Remember our SUV example. If you stuck around up until this point, please let me know in the comments how you think this problem can be solved. And if you learned something new from this video, please consider subscribing to the channel.